Good afternoon, Nashville. This is James Grady. I'm the managing editor of Out and About Nashville, and I'm here today with Will French, who is a school counselor. Good evening, Will.
Hi, good evening.
So we've been talking a little bit about the way that this epidemic has impacted LGBTQ youth, and I thought it would be interesting to get a perspective from somebody who has worked with some youth in the Nashville area.
Yeah.
So what's it been like for you as a counselor kind of continuing to do your job since we've all been socially distanced?
It has been certainly a challenge that has, I guess I've had to sort of rise to the challenge of this moment. You know, we obviously as school counselors normally do our work in person. We see students in the hallways. You know, we can track them down pretty easily. And now, you know, it's there's just some added effort on both my part and students' parts to make sure that students are getting the support that they need academically, social emotionally, preparing for college, all those different sorts of things. So it's been an interesting challenge, sometimes fun, sometimes hard.
So in addition to their schoolwork and their preparations for college, what other kinds of issues do you find your students are facing during this time? Do you hear much about, you know, are they worried? Are they afraid?
Yeah, you know, certainly a lot of my students feel very uncertain about just what's happening. You know, and I work with high schoolers, so you know they're able to kind of understand a little bit more, perhaps closer to as adults our level of understanding about what's happening. I can't even imagine, or I can only imagine, you know, what it's like to be an elementary school counselor right now, or a parent of elementary school kids who really have it's almost impossible for them to grasp kind of what's happening. So, but anyway,
Right.
you know, my students, you know, they've been kind of nervous, and you know, some of them are worried and afraid. Some of them are really stressed because this pandemic has, and kind of the circumstances around it have forced them to take on even more work to support their families at home. And so that there's just been a lot of pressure, I think, for a lot of young people to face this moment.
And there's a lot of unprecedented uncertainty for people who are preparing for college, both juniors and seniors, you know, because we don't even know what fall is going to look like for people
No,
who are headed off to college.
no, not at all.
So,
It's go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and colleges, of course, themselves are saying, you know, we anticipate to return to campus in the fall, but you know, as a lot of those of us who follow the news are aware, you know, health experts are expecting a resurgence. So, you know, as any of us can do, we can only hope for the best, and you know, I think that's part of what this moment is about too, is particularly as educators, is, you know, responding to the crisis, and responding to the crisis, of course, now, but also using this as a training period to plan for the fall, and knowing that there's a real good chance that in the fall, you know, whatever level of education you're working at, be prepared to be working virtually again. So,
when it comes to your LGBT students or those of your colleagues, you know, we know that on a regular basis they face special challenges. What are some of the big challenges that we're LGBTQ plus youth facing?
so you know, I think one of the things that we have seen in this pandemic during this time is whatever challenges existed or have existed, you know, to this point, now are further exacerbated by the conditions of this pandemic. So, students who maybe felt periods of isolation didn't experience validation at home, but but are validated at school. All of that is now exacerbated and worse because they're not able to be in environments where they do feel validated, and so or they're not able to be around peers who, even if they are supported at home, we still know it makes a huge difference to be around other people who are, like ourselves, and
Right.
can understand our experiences, our feelings, our identities. So, and that's almost, to a certain extent, kind of, for lack of a better way of saying it, maybe almost best case scenario. That doesn't include, students who might experience kind of physical abuse as a result of their identities, and or have been experience homelessness, etc. So, and for some students, school was also where they got their food, including LGBTQ students, and so it's just made it that much harder for them to get the level of support and care that they need. And so that's been some of what LGBTQ students have been experiencing now.
So I guess two questions. One is, for those of us who know or have relationships with LGBTQ plus youth, what can and should we be doing to support them? And for those of us who don't, what opportunities are there for community outreach and support? What organizations are helping, and how can we get them?
Yeah. So, and I think it's important to say, no matter what level of I appreciate those two questions, because no matter what level of kind of connection you have with LGBTQ, we can all do something. And so, for those of us who do have some kind of direct connection with LGBTQ youth, great things to offer are kind of understanding we're all stressed. And so you can practice kind of mindfulness or other kind of de-stressing activities or exercises to help ground the young people and not sort of spiral into more worry, more anxiety, more depression, or anything like that. So, practice mindfulness or other de-stressing activities. There are a lot of, I think, because young people might feel disconnected from their own peers, or they still want a chance to kind of see themselves. There's a lot of great TV and movies out there to help young people still see themselves represented, or books, things of that nature. And talking to the young people, the young person in your life, and really just checking in and allowing them to be honest, giving them the space to share what's on their mind. And it's particularly at a time like now, I think a lot of us are feeling those big feelings, or they're even kind of harder to feel now. And so, just creating space to allow the young person to share that can be just really affirming, and can be really helpful. And just knowing that we won't necessarily have all the answers, and that's okay too, but just giving them the space to share what's on their mind. And then also, of course, just at a base level to, just connecting young people to resources that can that can help them, particularly if we don't feel like we can offer those resources ourselves. If we don't have young people, LGBTQ young people in our life, there are still ways to support. So, and then this is where obviously it kind of depends on what people feel like they have the capacity to do. There are a lot of organizations, nonprofit organizations, and mutual aid funds that are doing a lot of work to give resources to LGBTQ people in general, but including youth. And for viewers who might not know, mutual aid funds usually put money directly into hands of people themselves. Whereas nonprofit organizations, if you donate to them, you're helping to support programming that they can provide to the affected communities. And so, particularly here in Tennessee, and especially Nashville, some helpful organizations that are doing a lot of work to support youth and LGBTQ youth are the Oasis Center, Glisten, Tennessee, and Big Brothers Big Sisters. Another organization that is providing support, but even as I was trying to do my own research, couldn't see a place necessarily to donate, is PFLAG Nashville, and so they also that's another resource that you could refer LGBTQ youth to, or families supporting LGBTQ youth, so that they can continue to be supported. A lot of these different kinds of organizations are facilitating online or virtual meetings so that young people can still connect with each other. And I think that's one of the kind of great things about this moment, is that we still have virtual communities, and those virtual communities are in a lot of ways expanding. At the same time, we also know that not everyone has access to internet or to technology, and so that's where that's just where it can be helpful to help connect these young people to connect young people to these opportunities. So.
Hi.
Hi.
It looks like I lost Wi-Fi there for a second from
Yes.
storm damage, and I think we're still streaming. So
okay. Well, I was just talking about folks connecting through online communities, and so and online communities being a way that people can still provide resources or in some sort of multi-generational online platforms, still being able to connect with young people. I don't think, and so I started to also mention donations, and I listed some of the local nonprofits that people can support. And yeah, just sharing. I think that's the other thing too, is just sharing. You never know what sharing a resource, how, even if you don't know LGBTQ youth yourself, you might be sharing a resource that someone else in your network can then share with our young people. So, yeah.
Have you heard from anybody? Are the kids getting together in social groups online with people they know a lot to sort of stay in touch?
Yes, absolutely. So what's been really cool to witness through the school district is that a bunch of the GSAs, gay straight alliances, within schools are still meeting virtually,
Okay.
and so at my particular school, I know that there's been some complications or challenges with that, um, but other schools are still having our young people connect and support each other. So I'm very glad that that's been um, available for them.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and thank you for contributing the article that you wrote.
Of course.
Have a great evening and goodbye, Nashville.
Bye.